Welcome to the second ever Concord Outlaws discussion/debate live on Google Hangouts and live streaming on the YouTube. I am going to be the moderator for this lovely occasion. I am the phenomenal K-Dog. You can check out my podcast on YouTube as well as my Twitter and Facebook, Markout Mania. Joining me today, we've got the phenomenal Show Off.
How's it going?
We've got the phenomenal C Nation.
How are y'all doing?
And we've got Snake the Jake, Mr. Jacob Rock.
I'm not finished with you yet. Braun! Sorry.
All right, now we just all leave now. I'm pretty scared. I don't want to do this anymore.
Well, there will be no Roman fans here.
Yeah, now that I've now pissed my pants. Let's go ahead and get this.
Ambulance.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's an ambulance outside my house. I hope not. That'd be really bad. So today I feel like is going to be a very, very interesting discussion. I've got a couple of things that we're going to discuss, debate, talk about, and hopefully hurt people's feelings because this is what it's all about. So we'll start off with the elephant in the room, shall we say, or the dog in the room, depending on however you want to look at it. Probably the thing that just about every wrestling fan is talking about is the controversy over the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So, Sunday night, of course, at Money in the Bank, the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match, James Ellsworth, the big hog, helped Carmella win by climbing up the ladder and throwing down the briefcase, thus having her win the Money in the Bank contract. Tuesday on SmackDown.
Phenomenally.
Yes. Tuesday on SmackDown Live, General Manager Daniel Bryan came out and said, "No, that's not right. We're not going to do that. It's going to be different." So, we're now going to have a rematch next week for the Money in the Bank ladder match. So, let me get your people's thoughts on initially the match initially Sunday night. Talk about the match, how you thought it went. Discuss the finish. Why do you think it was right or wrong? And who do you think will win the rematch? A lot of things to discuss here. So if you have any questions, let me know. We'll start with the phenomenal C Nation, since you're the only person that seems to agree with me on this.
All right.
And since I'm not really going to be talking and discussing my point of view, I'll let you do it for me.
I love the finish to the match. Like, I mean, I get the other side where it seems like, oh, in a historical match, you don't want a man taking the woman's spotlight, but I mean, it wasn't like Carmella was the babyface doing heelish tactics. She was booked as a heel, and I mean, it ended really good. Like, it gave us a shock value, like, of, oh, well, I didn't expect James Ellsworth to climb the ladder. And then, like, the previous two men's Money in the Bank matches, we've had interference from, I think it was 2 years ago, we had Kane help Seth Rollins win, and then Roman Reigns was supposed to win it, and Bray Wyatt interfered to have Sheamus win before Dean Ambrose won it the year after. And it's just like, in a match where there really isn't any rules, why are they creating rules because of fan backlash? I don't see the point of the taking away of the briefcase. But now that that's storyline, what I think is WWE didn't think it would be as bad as a backlash from the fans. And so they're doing this to appeal to the fans. But I still think Carmella's going to win on Tuesday.
All right. I do appreciate that, and it's a great opinion there. Mr. Show Off.
All right. Let's get the correct perspective. You can check this. This is one of the talking points I did on my podcast today, so let me plug that in the phenomenal Show Off. It's not live because it's not a live video. It's audio, but that is what it is. But
I basically explained that. I'll do a short version of that. First off, I think the entire pay-per-view was a snore fest. So this match added to it. Just, yeah, I feel a lot of it was, oh, I could see that coming type thing, and this match wasn't anything special. It didn't live up to the hype. But in terms of Carmella, I feel a lot of people are like, oh yeah, we've had interference before, like James just said, but that to me that interference is different. Kane didn't climb the ladder. What's his name? The other dude you mentioned, Bray Wyatt didn't climb the ladder. Yes, they interfered, but they didn't climb the ladder and grab the briefcase. To me, it's a woman's Money in the Bank, which to me, the unwritten rule is a woman should climb the ladder and grab the briefcase. Also, James Ellsworth was not licensed to be in said match, therefore he shouldn't be able to climb the ladder, grab the briefcase. To me, I think it took the spotlight off of women's wrestling. I'm a huge fan of women's wrestling, independent and WWE, and so I think it set back the motion that Triple H tried to start with the whole revolution. To me, I think it took a step back, having a man sort of steal the show. I don't really think, though, this is the whole stripping of it. I think that this whole thing was story. I think on Talking Smack, you guys didn't know. So I think Carmella does win by herself, and then they use that as storyline to split them up. I think that's what's going to happen in events. Maybe we won't see the turtle anymore. That's the best case scenario in my book. But
you can't knock the big hoss, though.
All right. Moving on, let's go now to Mr. Snake the Jake. What is your opinion on the whole aspect of it?
Well, I mean, you kind of going into that match, you already kind of knew that Ellsworth was already going to climb up the ladder. Even sitting here, me and my fiance was sitting here, and in the chair I'm sitting in, she was sitting right here, and I looked over at her and said, he's going to climb that ladder and going to, drop the briefcase to her. Now, it did take away from the women's wrestling. I think, some spots in the match were kind of, I don't know, wasn't that great, I guess you could say. Kind of a lot of botches. I could understand that they're women wrestlers and they kind of don't want to go out there like the men and like put their bodies on the line. And that kind of like we all said, I think to me personally, I think it kind of took away. I agree. It kind of took away from the women's wrestling, took a step back. I just don't know. I think Carmella's going to end up winning it again. I just think having the women get up there and take the briefcase down would have been a whole lot better than Ellsworth going up there and just dropping it to her. Kind of like what JBL said, it was all confused at the end of the match. And JBL said, it doesn't matter who climbs up the ladder to get the briefcase, whoever holds it at the end. So there's kind of that, written rule. It doesn't matter as long as whoever's in the match has got the, the briefcase. But I think it just took away from the women's wrestling. I think it, could have been a very good match. I'm not saying a 5-star match. Could have been a good 4-star match. But I think it just took it away. So to me personally, I think, having him banned from ringside is going to be good. I think Carmella still wins. If not, I wouldn't rule out Becky Lynch. I mean, that's my thought. I wouldn't rule her out at all. Because, she was close.
Go ahead.
I mean, she was close to winning. I really thought at the end of the day, I thought she was going to win it all. But I think it's either Carmella or Becky Lynch. So we'll see.
Yeah, I would second that with Becky because there's a story going around that whoever actually wins it won't actually have a successful cash in because they don't want to take it from Naomi. But they would rather Lana have the title than any of the 5. And
boo.
So which I was like, no, that's a bad decision. But
she was awful. She's awesome.
I only had two things discussing. That might be a third one here. Anyways,
Awful.
so I guess kind of playing devil's advocate in a way. I understand from both Show Off and Jake's perspective of it seems like it's almost like a dimper on the women's wrestling scene and the women's wrestling revolution. However, this is my perspective. Don't you think we're now at a point to where we shouldn't still be separating the two and making it to where it's still like kind of like, we're still kind of pushing the women's thing down our throats? That's almost 2 years now. I think maybe a little bit. I think it started September of 2015. That's when that whole thing started. So we've had a women's Hell in a Cell match. We've had a steel cage match on SmackDown. The ladder match. This was the first Money to Bank ladder match, so I can understand that. We've had a tables match. We've had a kendo stick on the pole match. We've had Sasha Banks and Bayley main event an NXT show, an Iron Woman match for the NXT Women's title back in 2015. We've also had, and that was the first of its kind, having a women's match main eventing a WWE themed pay-per-view. And then Charlotte and Sasha main evented Hell in a Cell last year for the women's title, the Raw Women's title. We've had both the SmackDown and the Raw Women's title belts main event their respective shows. Don't you think we're now at a point to where we can't just keep saying that this is a landmark in women's wrestling, because we've already had so many landmarks that now what happened on Sunday was just strictly business? It wasn't to downplay women. It wasn't to downplay the women's wrestling scene. Don't you think now we're at a point to where now it's just strictly, we got to treat them just like any other regular business and any regular storyline? We've got to get something that can be controversial, and like it is, it's controversial. But don't you think that we shouldn't really separate the two now? Now we can just see everybody as a whole. Whoever wants to start that off.
Yeah, I would say that's what we got to do is when we split between men and women. I mean, let's just say it this way: if during the men's Money in the Bank match, let's say a female wrestler came out and helped someone win that briefcase, climbed the ladder, took it down, and threw it down to them, would there be as much controversy? And I don't think there would be. I think they would have been like, oh, that's a great storyline. But because they wanted to, quote unquote, break the glass ceiling in women's wrestling, when Ellsworth dropped the briefcase down to Carmella, they were confused, I would think, and that led to unneeded criticism of the match. I think the next step that they got to take is going back to mixed gender matches, and because that's the next step. If we want to paint the picture that women can do just as much in the ring as a man can do, then put them in there together and see what can happen. I'm not saying put Braun Strowman against Becky Lynch, but you can intermingle them into matches and have women fight specific moves and make something out of it, like it used to be and like it is on the independent scene. That's what all the fans, I mean, I've heard a lot of people think make mixed gender matches the next step, because you're doing all the gimmick matches, but you're not progressing anywhere. They're still seen in a large portion, especially like with Lana, like we look at her still as the sex object of the WWE because of the clothes and the attire that she was wearing. Like that was the only reason anybody really watched that match, because to be honest, she wasn't that great of a fighter in that match. And Naomi wasn't really good as well, but the only reason people were interested was in what she was wearing. So I think the next step to progress women's wrestling would be intergender matches.
Good respective point there. Let's go to Snake to Jake first before we go back to the show off. I know you've got a lot to say. Let's get your opinion first, though, on what I just said and kind of responding to what the C Nation said.
I mean, I agree. I mean, you see it on the independent scene. Like I said, I mean, that's what you see. It's just, they need to just progress it in, step by step. I guess, I really don't know. You know how WWE is nowadays with the whole PG thing. They really don't want to see a man beat up a woman because of domestic violence. And we've seen that back in the early, of course, me being the oldest, I used to watch that every Monday night. Used to see China go up against, Farouk or, D'Lo Brown, just throwing names out there, just going out there every week and would wrestle guys. Now, and then when all this domestic violence blew up, of course, computers and laptops as technology started to get bigger and bigger and bigger, where we got cell phones with cameras on the back, domestic violence. They was like, no, we're not doing it no more because, we're not trying to say, oh, go up and beat a girl. That's kind of how it is. But in the independent scene, it's getting like that too. I mean, I wanted to bring that up real quick. One of the guys that I follow on Facebook that does the independent wrestling, he just had a match not too long ago. I think it was last week. Yes, it was last Saturday. And I was watching it live on Facebook. And as you can hear, the crowd, they were more excited that the guys were beating up the women and being like, oh, that's what a woman deserves, is being, beat the hell up. And it's like, wow, okay, now we're really getting into the domestic violence thing. So, I mean, you kind of with it, you want the intergender matches back, but you're going to have those people up here going to be like, oh, that's domestic violence. Can't have that. Take it off TV. And it's going to happen because Vince listens. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where we, I don't know. The independent scene can do more than what WWE can do because they're on national TV. They're in so many homes, every, millions and millions of homes. But I think that's where the PG-13 needs to step back. Here's my personal opinion real quick. From 8 to 9 o'clock, I've said it before, from 8 to 9 o'clock, it's a filler time. Make that 8 to 9 o'clock. When do kids usually go to bed? Kids usually go to bed around 9 o'clock.
Right.
From 8 to 9, PG. 9 to 11, PG-13. Then you can have all sorts of stuff you can throw out there. I think from 8 to 9, that's when you show your cruiserweights. That's just me. I'm done with that conversation. I can go on with the cruiserweights all day long, and I really don't want to. But, if you really want to showcase your cruiserweights 8 to 9 and change it over to PG-13, and you can have those intergender matches again, and you can see women getting beat the hell up again, which, to me, it's wrestling. It's just wrestling. It's all it is. It's not showing domestic violence. Somebody's not going all Ray Rice on somebody,
There we go.
we ain't having that, man. It's just wrestling. It's for our entertainment. We see it on a daily basis. Whatever TV show you all watch, you see a domestic violence case, you see it all the time. So, I just think personally myself, 8 to 9 PG, 9 to 11, 11-15. I think it went over 3.5 hours this week. So, I say just put it on from 9 to 11:30 and have it PG-13 and just go on with it. But that's just my thing about the intergender thing, is somebody's going to say, well, he just Ray Riced that girl and beat her up. And then WWE, of course, is going to, can't do that no more. So,
yeah, definitely you can see that. So now let's go to show off. What is your whole take on everything that's been transpiring here?
So I'll second what Jake just said. I don't think it'll be a WWE who sort of pushes it back. I think they want to do it. I think it's the network that's keeping them from doing it. When they did back in the 90s, early 2000s, the intergender, they were on Spike. It was seen as more hardcore, like television. To begin with, USA is sort of a family-friendly show who's really all about sort of pushing the minorities. If you know any shows on USA, you got Modern Family, which is pushing the sort of gay agenda, whether or not you think it's bad or not. I actually like that show, and I think that's a good way to actually like push it, and it's not too over aggressive with it, but it also has they push a lot of African American lead characters as well, so it's all about pushing the minority on USA. So I don't think they would want to step that back by showing women get beat up. But I think to like sort of actually answer the real question, yes, the women's division at one point, I think in in this whole revolution, they were having like Sasha and Charlotte having their Hell in a Cell match that main evented. They've had these great matches. You brought up Bailey and Sasha at NXT. Now, to me, I can't put that as part of the whole like revolution, because to me, NXT is to me a different like brand, because if you look at it, Triple H and what he's doing in NXT, having complete control, I think he's doing an absolute amazing job there. But I think while the writers on Raw and SmackDown still have control and Vince still has final say, I don't think we can compare the two. I don't think Vince is that heavily focused on women's wrestling as much. Because I mean, if you just look, it's been like almost a year now since Hell in a Cell with Sasha, and then where are these women's wrestling? We're having four fatal four ways for the titles. We're having not all the divas on Raw or women's wrestlers on Raw being used and utilized properly. And I think while the men have some of that, there's a reason. There's more men as women. So yes, we're not going to see all the men. But I still think there's a way to utilize all the women and not putting them in fatal four ways or 8-man women's matches for that have no meaning. I feel we've taken a step back from putting on Hell in a Cell matches and having these great Iron Man matches that Cody or Iron Woman, however you want to say it, to where I feel we've taken a step back from before then, and we've really focused, I think, more. I mean, like Sasha's whole angle now was that whole love story that no one actually cares about. Or as much as I love Maria, her whole gimmick, now that she's here, to me, I don't see it working. But to have that whole gimmick and then to destroy Miz and Maurice's gimmick, which absolutely just disgusted me. This whole lovey-dovey crap that goes on just doesn't work with me. I think it's because we focus too much on storylines and on Raw and SmackDown. Those are important things, but to me, I guess just because when I think of women's wrestling, I think of independent wrestling. They've been 10,000 feet ahead of WWE in terms of women's wrestling for a long time, and there's no storyline involved. There's just 2 women or 4 women tag team matches just doing what they want to do. There's no real story to it. So that's the type of like wrestling that I like and I enjoy, where there's really no storyline. So I understand that WWE is a live show and they need a story to keep it going, but I would rather see them sort of take a step back from a story and just let wrestlers be wrestlers and do what they do best.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that, and I can see where you're coming from on that as far as the storyline aspect of it. But when you go to different promotions, there's always a certain type of style. You go to Japan, they don't focus a whole lot on the character aspect, and they do carry out some storylines, and it makes it really interesting. But they're all about pretty much just the product in the ring. And even AJ Styles has said that they don't really, when he came to WWE, he didn't really focus much on the entrance and the camera angles and the production of it. He was just focused on his in-ring work. And that's what you have to look at, is that every company has a different style. The WWE style is the more product, the camera angles, the production. It's a whole package, where it almost seems like the in-ring stuff is not as important as it would be for your appearance, whether it be the entrances, the promos, the backstage segments, the camera angle, stuff like that. So, I can see where you're coming from on that. And as far as the independent scene with the whole women's thing, if you really appreciate wrestling without any storylines, watch WCW back in the 1990s, because most of their matches didn't have many storylines. It was more just the wrestling stuff, which is probably why they were, dominating the ratings way back when. But that's getting off into a different topic. Kind of one more thing to kind of hit on before we transition to a different topic here. WrestleMania 17, as I throw down my pen here, I guess I'm too excited. WrestleMania 17, TLC 2 was in a way a little bit controversial because it was, Edge, Christian, the Dudley Boys, and the Hardys, where Rhino, the finish of the match, had Rhino, a person who was not involved in the match at all, carrying Christian on his shoulders, climbing the ladder, and Christian basically retrieved the briefcase, but he was on top of Rhino's shoulders. So I can kind of correlate that to what happened Sunday, only because of the fact that there wasn't a person in the match, he got involved, kind of that whole sort of thing. But they never reversed the decision. Edge and Christian were the tag team titles, and they moved on. So just kind of a point to hit on, a little last touching thing before we transition into any of that.
Hey, Cody, you can't use logic against the casual fan that watch. We can't use history.
Well, I'm going to use history, so they better get over it.
What in tarnation?
Well, oh no. Another new thing with Goofy, the oh no thing. Yeah. So kind of transitioning now to a much different topic, not so much men and women. It's just basically the whole thing now. Kind of going back to what I said just a few seconds ago about the WWE style and the whole different promotions have different styles. I'm starting to get really irritated with the fact that wrestling is not, of course, what it used to be. It's different, and it has to change. With the times, it changes, which is fine. When I really was younger and I watched wrestling, we'll go with WWE, for example. We'll say in between the mid-2000s, late 2000s. If Triple H used a pedigree, he used it once, match was over. Chris Jericho used the walls of Jericho, match was over. Rock bottom, rock elbow, Kurt Angle's Olympic slam, whatever. Usually if you used one finisher, that match was over, and you knew that finisher was strong AF, and it was going to finish the match. Nowadays, we use finishers so much in a match, and people kick out of it, that I feel like the finisher is no longer relevant. So, here's my little take on it. Would you have, this is for a question for all of you, would you have, as a creative person, because as we know, with different matches on shows, they have different agents that cater for the match. So whether it's Pat Patterson working for an Intercontinental title match, whatever. Would you, as a creative writer who's carrying a match out for a show, would you have that person use a different type of finisher? And we're not using, dirty tactics, rolling up, using the tights, using the rope, stuff like that, disqualifications. We're talking about actual clean finishes. Would you have them use a different type of finisher? Like, for instance, we use Dean Ambrose when he used to do that Russian leg sweep head thing into the mat. And he could pin somebody 1, 2, 3 instead of using their dirty deeds. Do you think wrestlers should use a different variation of a different finisher or a different way to win without using the finisher to make it more exciting when they do use the finisher, make it more legit as to, oh crap, they just used the finisher, that should be the match over, and it makes it more legitimate? What's your guys' take on that? We'll start first with the show off first. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I think the only thing we need to change is if we want to protect finishers, don't have them use it as much. I think the biggest problem is we get people like Cena or Roman Reigns, who I'm not bashing them for this. I think it's just the way they're trying to build them up as these sort of superhero like characters, to where the finishers they're not protected and they mean nothing, because Cena can get hit with 6 F5s and 12 suplexes and still kick out. And so I think it's more of we're trying to build these sort of especially the faces. We're trying to build the faces to be these sort of superhero like characters that will appeal to the PG audience. That I think in order to do that, we have to sort of unprotect finishers. So again, I think it's more of the rating and the intended audience. I would say the 90s, early 2000s, even like mid 2000s, while it was PG-13, it wasn't never directed to the people under like 15 years old. It was always directed to the adults, even though people still say, why do you still wrestling? You're not a kid anymore. Why do you still watch it? Because it was never directed for kids in the first place. So I think especially in WWE, I think moving to PG, they're trying to build these sort of relatable characters, these superheroes that will sort of fit. And again, I think it's USA's whole. They had a whole campaign of build the hero or be the hero you want to see, and so I think WWE tried to use that as well in their shows, and so they're building Cena or Roman Reigns to be these superheroes that can conquer everything. And so I think, again, if we just raise the rating to PG-13, not try to build it to relate to kids, and just use, and then again, that I think that will ultimately start protecting finishers to where we don't have to build these superheroes. They can still be human, and the finishers will then become more protected.
Sure thing. Let's go over to Snake to Jake. What's your opinion on this whole thing?
I mean, I agree. We're in a day and age now where, they're trying to take the audience more towards kids. You can see it with Roman Reigns. But I'm going to point something out, though. You've got Roman Reigns. I think it was this past Monday. Yes, it was this past Monday. If you go back and look, when Roman Reigns is coming out or, getting out of the ring, you see a kid walk right over to where he is and tell him, you suck. You're starting to get kids that are jumping off that bandwagon is like, this guy's stupid. I mean, a lot of the women I know, there was a girl behind me that pulled for Roman Reigns. Why? Because, of his looks, not because of his in-ring ability, not because of anything else, because of his looks. And that's what, and, you're going to get the women. Of course, he's going to get the women, and, he's going to get the kids and stuff like that. But now, on the other hand, you've got John Cena, who you've got adults that like. I'm not a John Cena fan, have nothing wrong with John Cena. I think he's progressed in the ring each year. I think he's gotten better. He's put on hell of matches. I think AJ Styles, him and Styles at SummerSlam last year was great. Like probably one of the best matches last year. But, I respect the hell out of Cena and what he does, day in, day out. I know he might be a part-timer now, but before all that, it was just different. He came out every week, busted his ass, US Open Challenge. But yeah, getting back to it, I think just with finishers, they got to be protected more. Like we used to see back, late 90s, early 2000s was one pedigree, one super kick, boom, that was out. 1, 2, 3, they're done. Now it's 3 AAs or 4 AAs, 4 Superman punches, a spear, and 20 F5s, just stuff like that. But, and they got to be protected because, when Roman Reigns does his little cock in the hand thing, which is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. When he gets that stupid look on his face and he goes and he's doing this right here and he's cocking his hand, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. It reminds me of John Cena back in the early days. Now that's how they're building Roman up, but I think they need to protect the finishers a little bit more. I think, the finish, people's finishers are getting a little bit too predictable, with guys like Roman, and stuff like that. I think, maybe 2, no more than 3 times using your finisher in a match. I think that'd be great. We don't need to see it 5, 6 different times in the match, where Roman hits Superman punch, like on Braun Strowman, like I said, Braun Strowman's a huge guy and he won't go down to his feet. Well, we don't need to see the Superman punch 5 times, but if you really think about how many moves does Roman Reigns have, that's about 5. But I think if we change it to PG-13, I think, you kind of do save, the finishers a little bit, but at the same time, the creative's got to be a little bit better on making the storylines. I think with this brand split, and before, I know I'm going off topic a little bit, but I want to talk about this brand split real quick. WWE's already regretting the brand split. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, it's getting to the point with me where I watch Raw on every Monday. I've been starting to watch it again, SmackDown as well. But when you look, it's like, I feel like the fans are not really getting behind it anymore. It's kind of like getting dull. And I think it's time to bring it all back. I mean, that's just my thing. That's just my thought. I think it's time to bring it all back If you want to have guys exclusive to Raw, then you have those guys exclusive to Raw. Same way with SmackDown. And then the others, let them go back and forth. Don't have two set rosters and then, go back and forth. Have a couple guys, I say 4 to 5 guys, and they're exclusive to both brands, and then the rest, you can go back and forth. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, definitely interesting viewpoint there. I didn't even think about that either, with the whole brand split thing, and as well as with the finisher thing too. Finish off with the C Nation. What is your opinion on the topic at hand?
I honestly it doesn't bother me really how many times they use it. What bothers me is 3 minutes into an 18-minute match. Like, you can't. It's like if you have to use 3 finishers to beat somebody, do it in quick succession. So, and then also with Brock Lesnar, when the only move he has is his finisher. That's what bothers me, is I want to see technical wrestling where where the only move you use is not your finisher, and you don't use it early in the match, and then you use one in the middle of the match, because it's just is that a move that you're doing, or is it your finisher? It's supposed to be a finisher for a reason. You shouldn't use it, but only at the end of the matches to make it seem like a legit move. So I think the way to make finishers interesting is to not do it. I mean, you can do it 3, 4, 5 times if you want, but do it at the end of the match instead of putting them throughout.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good point to look at, and I mean, I agree with that as well. I think that if you're really going to use it, then use it at the end of the match. There's no need to use it, so early in the match, and you kick out of it when knowing that at the end of it, you're probably going to use it again or 2 or 3 more times before it's officially over, and it's really it makes, to me, the match not as great because you use it so many times and it gets kind of old and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely some good input there, and from everybody, I do appreciate joining in and definitely sitting on the topic. Does anybody else have anything they want to share before we start plugging away on social media?
Yeah. Just real quick. Just real quick. It said he wanted to see technical wrestling where they save their finishers for last. That sounds like a particular wrestler that I know of that should be WWE champion. His name is Dolph Ziggler.
Fired is what he should be.
But anyway, yeah, that's all I got to say.
Not really technical, in my opinion.
Igniting the flame for the next debate. How about that?
Anybody else? Dolph is gone. I think Dolph is gone. Dolph is going to New Japan. I really believe it.
And I'm going with them.
I believe it. Here's my thing about Ziggler. Nothing to get wrong. I mean, when he won the Money in the Bank and, he cashed it in on Alberto Del Rio the next night on Monday Night Raw was fantastic. The Survivor Series, I think it was, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when Ziggler, came back and beat, I guess, was it the whatever Stephanie McMahon's little trio thing was, the Authority. Yeah. The Authority. He came back and beat, the Authority and all that. Right then and there, I think he deserved a push, and WWE kind of waited a little bit too long, and has just I'm not a huge Ziggler fan. Don't get me wrong. He can sell. He oversells. But, his moves, are the same. It kind of reminds me of Shawn Michaels. It's that Shawn Michaels kind of feel, but, it's – I don't know. With Ziggler, I think, he would benefit for going to New Japan maybe. Maybe somewhere like ROH. But I feel like, they kind of buried Dolph Ziggler. Every single Money in the Bank ladder match they have, he's always in it. Regardless, any type of ladder match they have, he's in it. I mean, you kind of look back at the past couple ladder matches, he's been in them, you know. So I think I know that they know they use him for the high spots because he can sell so well. But I mean, that's just my little take on Dolph Ziggler. But I think I just had a JBL moment. But let's talk about JBL for 1 second, just because I messed up. How did y'all like that he called the Andre Memorial Battle Royal the Andre Drummond Michael Jordan Memorial Battle Royal before he flipped over and said Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal?
I hope that was fed into his microphone and that wasn't him spitting off that, because
Oh, I mean, he did, man. That thing, it was crazy too. I sat here and started laughing. I was like, "Wow, JBL, you're really messing it up today. Good job."
I must have watched some NBA before going
Yeah,
live.
yeah, no kidding.
Speaking
No
of
kidding.
which, tune into the NBA draft, guys. Tonight, it's
Yep.
gonna be awesome.
8
I
o'clock.
don't have any input into it. I don't follow basketball. I follow a couple other sports. The NHL draft's tomorrow night. Follow that. My team doesn't have a pick. Well, one of them has a pick in the first round. The other one doesn't have one until the fourth round. Oh well. Were you
Anyway.
gonna say something there, C-Nation? You had your hand raised like you were wanting to do something.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Social media, guys.
Yeah. So definitely, before we get to that, just want to appreciate everybody taking the time out and joining us here today. Phenomenal show off. Go ahead and plug away with your special features.
All right, so like I said, I posted a new podcast today on YouTube. The channel is The Phenomenal Show Off. Let's see, Instagram, if you use that, is The Phenomenal Show Off. Facebook and Twitter is Randall Beatley, RANDALL BEATLEY. What else? Oh yeah, if you guys know anybody who would like me to promote them or any like indie stuff, tell them to send an email to thephenomenalshowofflive@gmail.com. That's the one I'll use. It's still empty. No one wants to communicate. That's fine. But especially here in North Carolina, if you guys want to have your stuff promoted, or if anyone wants to be interviewed, any independent wrestlers, let them know. Hit me up on there or on Facebook or any of the previous mentioned stuff. So yeah.
C-Nation.
All right. As you know, I run the Carolina Revival podcast. You can follow that on Twitter at Carolina Revival with a K instead of a C. Hopefully, I will get the special series that, if you listen to the last podcast I was talking about, of my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time in the WWE, both male and female. That hopefully I get that started very soon, because I am transitioning from this series instead of doing just Monday Night Raw and SmackDown reviews, because I really am not interested in Raw and SmackDown at this point. I think I've mentioned that before. I think it's kind of boring. But follow Carolina Revival on Twitter, and listen to the podcast. If you search Carolina Revival Podcast on iTunes, you can listen to the podcast there, as well as on the Concord Outlaws Facebook page, facebook.com/Concord Outlaws Wrestling.
Thank you very much. There's one left.
Braun. All right. So if you want to follow me on Facebook, just type in Jacob Brock. If not, KYCats5434 at yahoo.com. Also follow me on Instagram at AceBoogieJake. Gotta get this thing rolling with the ringside mania here. Been kind of like having some issues with guests, trying to get them on at the same time. My mom has surgery, been taking care of my mom, as well as me trying to get ready for some important court date next week for myself for disability. But hopefully going to have my buddy John on, John North, maybe going to do one with my buddy Dave Bullock, and hopefully got to get in touch with Sean Phoenix. I know he's already reached out to me about doing the interview for, I guess I'm going to buy a shirt, so it's going to be $20, but which I don't mind. But hopefully you can get those three up here soon. I know with John, I think it's going to be sometime, maybe it might be tomorrow or it might be Saturday. With Dave, I'm going to have to kind of wait maybe till next week. And same with Sean Phoenix. Might just gonna have to book a day because I know he's been busy. Of course, on Facebook, he's doing a lot of shows right now. I know he's doing shows at least like every 2 days. So he's traveling a lot. But yeah, we're gonna get this thing up and running. I know I've been slacking. It's because, like I said, my buddy John does play-by-play for Union College in Barberville, Kentucky. So he's been, to like the softball championships and stuff like that. So hopefully we're going to have him on, and can't wait to have him on and have him, give his input, because you guys will really like it, because it's going to be awesome.
Good deal, man. Looking forward to it. Sounds like I got quite a bit of projects here, just like everybody else here. Definitely looking forward to everybody kind of branching out and doing their own thing here. For myself, you can definitely follow me on Twitter at the Phenomenal K-Dog. That's K-D-A-W-G, not D-O-G. You can follow me on Facebook at Cody Montanaro, K-O-D-Y, and then the state Montana with an R-O at the end. I don't have a specific YouTube channel. I just kind of post all my stuff there on the Concord Outlaws YouTube channel. So mark out Mania. I do have a special episode that's going to be coming up here, hopefully within the next couple of days here. I do run down the Money in the Bank review on that show, and I'm also going to have my thoughts and intake on the whole elephant in the room with the Carmella Money in the Bank thing and the angle where that's going. And I lash out war against a specific type of people. I lash out war. I declare war. So definitely tune in for that here when it gets uploaded, and see who I do that with. Potentially may have a couple of interesting guests in the next couple of weeks. Got to finalize all the plans and all that good stuff. So hopefully that'll be coming up soon on my show. Other than that, guys, I do appreciate you all joining me here, and I do appreciate you guys taking the time to come out and watch the Concord Outlaws Wrestling live stream on Google Hangouts and YouTube. Definitely share, like us on YouTube at Concord Outlaws Wrestling. Follow us on Facebook.com/Concord Outlaws Wrestling. It's been a pleasure with all you guys. Definitely been an interesting discussion. So tune in next time for the next one. Hopefully we'll have one here in a couple weeks or so. As long as everybody's schedule goes to plan, we'll see. But appreciate you guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Wait a minute before you go on. Before we go off,
he cut me off.
Before we go anywhere,
we just said
it's going to take 20 seconds. Check out your local Hot Topic if you want the Bullet Club shirts. I know there's 143 stores in the U.S. that are holding all four, which is the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, the Bullet Club shirt. What was the other one?
Cody.
Young Bucks. Yeah, and Cody Rhodes. Thank you. I know here in Johnson City, Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm trying to think of anything else in Tennessee. I think Nashville too. But them 3 stores, I live closer to Johnson City. I know they're getting all 4 shirts. I think they already have them already. So go pick them up at your local Hot Topic. I think they're going to be like $24.99, I think. So that will save you shipping on ProWrestlingTees.com. And plus, we need to do some grab bags soon. We need to do some grab bags on Pro Wrestling Tees. I think they're only $7.99. That's where I got the Elite shirt. I got it out of a grab bag shirt. Paid $7.99 for this. I also got a CM Punk shirt that says "Welcome to Chicago, motherfucker." So I am going to say that word. Sorry. Sure. And
we're banned from YouTube. It's fine.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, there's more people that say more worse things than I do on YouTube. But yeah, right. I've got that in my dresser. I do not wear it because, I'm always around kids and stuff like that. So I do not want to wear it and be like, oh, look at that, Mom, it says the F word. No, I ain't wearing it. So it's very deep down in the dresser and never going to get worn unless I go to like an indie show, which I'll probably wear it just to see the kind of reaction that I get. But yeah, so Hot Topic, check your local Hot Topic for those shirts. Just want to throw that out there. So I do not get paid for plugging Pro Wrestling Tees or Hot Topic. So if y'all want to sponsor me, hit me up.
Since you
hit us up, we will take the sponsorship any day. Any day. We will take it.
You ain't kidding. You ain't kidding. Since you had the word of the day, I'm gonna follow that, and I have 3 words, and that's fuck Hot Topic, because apparently they don't want to sell things within a 200-mile radius of where we live.
Yeah,
I know Charlotte's gonna have the 1 shirt, and that's it, and then Fayetteville's gonna have the Young Bucks shirt, and that's it. Columbia's gonna have the Young Bucks shirt, and that's it. So me and Hot Topic are not very friends right now because I don't appreciate the fact that they're not going to have one very, very close to us. However, I'm going to Atlanta in a couple weeks. I do know that a mall that I'm staying 5 minutes away from in Atlanta is selling all 4. So nice little trip there, and getting those will be on the demand. Anything else before?
No, sir. We're good.
we get out of here. Good? Are we good? Are we sure?
Pretty good.
Yep, we
We're
good.
set.
Awesome. Well, like I said, definitely appreciate you guys taking the time out and joining me. Appreciate the guys listening to this on YouTube and Google Hangouts. I'll follow up with what Jacob said. If anybody wants to have a sponsorship, just hit us up, please. God, we'd love you if you did that. Twitter, Facebook, whatever you want to do, just do it.
And
Have a
yeah,
great rest of your day, guys. I appreciate you. Too sweet, dog.
Too sweet.
Too sweet. Too sweet.